Land descriptions. Without reading, what do you guys think we're going to talk about today? Land, right? That's obvious. And guess what? It's description. Can you guys give me examples of land description of what you think it might be?
Area.
Area, okay.
The size, area,
The size, okay. How it looks, okay. How many square feet? So area. The address, okay, let's hold on to that one. Milton Road parcels. Mary said limits. Elizabeth says survey. Elvira says block and lot. If it's in the flood zone or not, okay. Cool. So here's the thing. When we're talking about land descriptions, we're talking about land description for a deed purpose. Therefore, title purposes. Okay. Flood zone was great, but not for a description, maybe for a warning. So we can let the client know, hey, this property is in the flood zone, so you're gonna have to pay flood insurance. You might not qualify for a mortgage if you have to add on that cost, yearly cost, right? You mentioned address, right? So address is great as a quick reference, but does an address tell you what the property looks like? No, right? And you're talking about how it looks like. We still don't want to know what it looks like. We want to know the area, what you started with, the area that belongs to me. Because what it looks like, we can always change, right? We can build something on it, we can remove it, right? So deeds do not describe what's on the property. The deed only shows what area of land belongs to you. Okay, make sure you guys are writing this down. A deed only shows what area of land belongs to you. And if you guys remember from the other day, we talked about the rights that you have on the property, right? Which is the surface, subsurface, all the way down to the center of the earth, and then airspace, so anything above, right? So picture that square or rectangle or triangle or irregular shape. That's what we're going to describe today. That's it. Everything else is rights that you have to build, okay? Within the government laws, of course. All right, so a street address, Alexis. That's the first thing you said, right? So a street address usually is enough to find the property or building, but not precise enough to define the parcel's perimeter and identify said property, okay? So not enough. It just says, hey, you reached the location. It's good for a GPS. It's good for USPS, and even they screw up delivering your mail, right? Maybe if we give them the description, they'll find it. A street address doesn't indicate the property size and boundaries, and the property must be legally described for a sales contract, lease, deed, or mortgage in order to be enforceable. A legal description is a detailed way to describe the land in a court admissible document. So you want to defend your position and say, this is my property. That's what you need to bring. Your Honor, this is my space right here. That's the neighbors. We talked about adverse possession yesterday, right? That's the neighbors and easements and all that. And this is mine. The description is based on a survey measuring land boundaries by calculating dimensions and area. A description is legally sufficient if a surveyor can locate the parcel. In this context, locate means defining property boundaries. Okay. Now, several systems of identifying real estate have been developed. We're going to talk about 3 of them. What the United States is trying to do over the past roughly 5 years is come up with a national system. See, every state has their own way. Out of these 3, they define, oh, we're going to do it this way, or we're going to do it that way, whatever, or a mix of them, right? But the United States have been trying to come up with a national locator, okay? So as technology advances, now with the whole GPS systems and the satellite views, like Google's been helping a lot with that, actually. So we have 3 ways. When you see legal descriptions, you got to remember meets and bounds, rectangular or government survey system, or lot and block, which is a recorded plat. Okay, and by the way, this word plat means map. Plat means map. In some situations, each method can be combined, like I was mentioning. Some states use one of the methods, others use all three. And about 10 states, including Hawaii and Colorado, issue and guarantee torrent certificates. We'll talk about them later. Technology has improved and allows for better land measurements and record keeping using satellite-based geographic information systems. If you ever search your municipality and then you type GIS, so let's say, for instance, we're in Newark. If you put Newark GIS, there is an online map survey system. So they will show you the parcels in Newark. Okay. Almost every single township now has this. And this will accurately locate the land boundaries and objects, and computer-assisted design programs create these maps. So let's start with meets and bounds. By looking at the name, so again, I'm going to try to simplify this as much as possible. By looking at the name, by reading it, what do you think this is? Meets and bounds.
Area.
Well, all of them are area, but yes, you just nailed it. Boundaries. So this is where property line meet. So write it down, where property lines meet and create boundaries. Property lines meet and create boundaries. This is one way of describing it. We're going to go over a few examples. Property lines meet and create boundaries. If there's anything you don't understand as I go through this in the next couple of minutes, please ask. So the meets and bounds method was used in the original 13 colonies and settled states, while the rectangular survey system was developed. Meets and bounds are linear measurements, and the method uses a property's physical features to determine its dimensions. A meets and bounds description begins with point of beginning. You got to know this, point of beginning or POB. And it goes right back to the point of beginning. So the POB ends the description. So it's pretty much like closing a box. Okay, I'm going to show you in the example in a second, but we start here, we have to end here. Whatever way we go, got to come back to this point. So the surveyor walks the property's perimeter, and linear measurements and natural and artificial landmarks called monuments and directions are used to record these boundaries. A meets and bounds description always ends at the point of beginning and closing the tract. All right, monuments. Now, usually when we hear monuments, we're thinking about something historical, a landmark, whatever, right? These are actually landmarks for positioning of your boundaries, okay? When it comes to real estate. So monuments mark the point of beginning, the parcel corners, boundary ends, and intersection. In colonial times, a monument could be a stone, tree, lake, or even a stream. It could have been a street, fence, or another landmark as well. Now today, the government departments or private surveyors, they place iron pins or concrete posts called rebars. These are the monuments we use today. The location of monuments is more important than their distances because they can be moved. Isn't that true? Can a rock be moved? Can a tree be removed? Right? So therefore, surveyors use cardinal points and distance as well as words like more or less in their descriptions. So the point of beginning ensures closure and removes questions if footage errors prevent that closure. Now, this is a typical description. So we're going to look at this image right here, and we're going to identify our property. Ready? Just by looking at it, do you know what your property is? This should be easy because there's only one property here, right? But how do we get to it? How do I identify it? Here's the description. It says a parcel located in Bucks County, Pennsylvania, having the following description. Commencing or beginning, depending on whoever was writing it, at the intersection of the south line of Route 199 and the middle of Flint Creek, thence southeasterly along the center thread of Flint Creek, 410 feet more or less to the Willow Tree landmark. Thence north 65 degrees west, 500 feet more or less to the east line of Dowell Road, and thence north 2 degrees east, 200 feet more or less along the east line of Dowell Road to the south line of Route 199, and thence north 90 degrees east, 325 feet more or less along the south line of Route 199 to the point of beginning. That's easy, right? We got it, right? Yeah. Some of you are shaking your head at home like, well, this is the easiest description, by the way. Some of you are like, oh my God, how am I going to remember this? I'm going to show you how easy this is. First of all, let's remove a code word over here. Ready? This word means then. It's as simple as that. So we begin at one point and then we go to another point. That's what it is. It's as simple as that. Remember, this is the first method, so it started in colonial times where English was not bet or cap or anything like that, right?
But today they still use thens, like when they write needs to
The new descriptions, no.
Okay.
But that's what I'm saying. First of all, meets and bounds is not as common to be used. Almost everybody upgraded to a block and lot or the rectangular survey system, which it's a little bit more complicated. You're going to see. So instead of simplifying things, they made it tough. But when you look at a deed, especially here in New Jersey, if it's an older property, the deed is not updated that often, or surveys are not updated that often. So the deed will still have these old references. Okay. But then again, I just told you what it is. Thence is simply then. Okay. So we're going to begin at the intersection of the south line. So things to look at: intersection, south line of Route 199 and the middle of Flint Creek. That's the first point we got to find. It's the point of beginning. Okay, so commencing means this is the POB, point of beginning, right? So let's go here. What do we have on the map? We have Route 199 and we have Flint Creek, right? You guys can see it at home? It's good? Okay, great. So we got to identify where these two intersect. It says south line because there's a north line and there's a south line, right? So we're going to go for the south line. This is north, this is south line. And we're going to go all the way here until we meet Flint Creek, right? Where do we start? Where's the point of beginning? Right here. POB, point of beginning. Was it hard to identify it? No, beginning at the intersection of these two. Good. Then it says thence, right? So the next thing we're going to do, let's clear this out. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to go southeasterly along the center thread of Flint Creek, 410 feet, more or less, to the Willow Tree landmark. So our direction is going to be southwesterly. Why is it not, I'm sorry, southeasterly. Why is it not southeast? Because it's not an even line or angle. It goes like this, right? So next thing we're going to do is go along this southeasterly until we find what? The willow tree right here. That's the next point. Okay. Now that we got here 410 feet down, right? More or less. Okay. We're going to go to the next point. And it says we're going to go north 65 degrees west, 500 feet more or less until we get to the east line of Dowell Road. Now, here's the cool thing, guys, as realtors, we don't have to do this. We don't have to calculate the degrees and all that stuff, but it's good to know what we're looking at, right? Surveyors will handle this for us, but it's good to know what we're looking at. So 65 degrees, and we're gonna go 500 feet more or less, right? To where? Dowell Road. As soon as we met Dowell Road, right? But it says west line or east line? East line, right? Because this is west, this is east. Okay? And by the way, I forgot to mention, every map will have this right here. An indicator where north is. So all you have to do is remember where south is, which is the opposite, right? And then where's west and where's east. So you do have to know these two, west and east. North is easy, south is easy. What people usually get confused is with west and east. Why? Because we read left to right, so we say east and west, right? If we went by the way we read, then this would have been east. You, right? Not good. So it's not you, it's we. Always. So we met at the east line of Dowell Road, and that's the next stop. So we had one here, next stop. The description keeps going. It says thence, or then, we're going to go north 2 degrees east, 200 feet more or less, right? Along the east line of Dowell Road, all the way to the south line of Route 199. So we're going to go up until we meet the south line, not the north one, the south line of Route 199, right there. Are we good so far? Did we identify our property already? No, why not?
Didn't reach the point of beginning.
We didn't reach the point of beginning, we gotta close the box. Okay? So that's what it says. To close this, it says thence. We're gonna go north 90 degrees. Hold on. Yeah, sorry. We're gonna go 90 degrees east, 325 feet more or less along the south line of Route 199 back to the point of beginning. So next thing we're gonna do, all the way to the point of beginning, and this closes our property. So now we have identified that this belongs to us or to our client. Everything above, below, or to either one of the sides belongs to somebody else. Was it that hard now that we followed each point? Reading might be hard, but once you start doing this, it's a lot easier, right? Give me a thumbs up if you got it at home. Love it. Cool. If you have questions, let me know. All right, can I complicate your life a little bit? Yeah? Okay, cool. Elvis says no. Zoe Zoraida says, can you just put your full name, please? Says no. Nika says more. Yeah, I'm going to complicate it even more. This is just day 3, right? Yeah. Just complicate a little bit more. All right. So I'll give you a preview. This is what we're going to talk about. Believe me, if I showed you the images from the previous books, it would be even more complicated. I try to make this as easy as possible. That's the township. I mean, the state, cities around. We found the township. It's divided into a bunch of squares. Each square is a section, and it's further divided into more squares or halves or anything like that.
What's parcels? Like how?
Parcel is a piece of land. That's it.
Okay.
And it could be defined either by meets and bounds by rectangular survey system or the lot and block that we're gonna call it.
Yeah, first you have subdivisions.
So we have a big parcel and we can subdivide it into smaller ones. Yeah. Jennifer says, looks awesome, love it. Yeah, I try to make it easy for you, Jen. So, rectangular governments or government survey system. To uniformly describe land acquired by newly formed federal government, Congress established the rectangular survey system back in 1785. This system, also known as the government survey system, is also known as government survey system. The land was divided into rectangles, and the survey provided descriptions of the land based on the rectangles in which the land was located. Two sets of intersecting lines, principal meridians and baselines. North and south represent the principal meridians, while the east and west represent the baselines. Both can be used by using reference to longitude and latitude coordinates. All right. Some of you are probably good at this. Some of you probably suck at this. It's not easy, but it's okay. I'm going to try to make it happen for you guys. And yes, the first time I saw this, I was also confused, just letting you know right now. So it's okay to be confused and it's okay to ask questions. Baselines, they cross the principal meridians, and they have names or numbers. Each boundary line on the map corresponds to a specific area of land surveyed using a specific principal meridian and baseline. The United States is divided into 37 principal meridians. Now, if you guys understand the word meridian, as I mentioned, it's north to south. So it cut into, let me change this. It's cut into slices like this. That's what you'll find across the United States. There's 37 different meridians or points of reference that cut like this. Where baselines, they go like this. Okay, across the United States. All right. They have a unique name and number. Legal descriptions should also include county and state where the land is located, because meridians sometimes relate to two baselines. The next thing we have in this description are tiers. I know some of you are reading tiers already, right? Trying a little bit. What did you get yourselves into? I know, right? But tiers are pretty much blocks. Okay, so between two lines. So township lines are defined as east and west lines are 6 miles apart. They run parallel to the baseline and to the baseline and run east and west. Tiers are the horizontal land divisions formed by these strips. Tiers like these remind me of a wedding cake, right? Because you have layers. So the tiers are identified in either direction, above or below the baseline, by a series of consecutive numbers. Township 2 North, for instance, refers to an area between 6 and 12 miles north of a baseline. I'll show you that in a second. Ranges. A range is a parallel to north and south lines that divide the land on either side of a major meridian into strips 6 miles wide. North-south spots of land are known as ranges. They are identified by a series of numbers that increase or decrease clockwise relative to the prime meridian or principal meridian. I'll show you that in a second. Range 3 East, for instance, will be the area between principal meridian and another meridian 12 to 18 miles to the east. Townships. Yes.
For the test, do we need to know like the first?
I'll show you exactly what you need to know for the test. All right, Masha's already like, oh, no, I'm not gonna remember this for the exam. All right, townships. Squares or townships are fundamental building blocks of the rectangular survey system. They're formed at the intersection of horizontal township lines and vertical range lines. Townships mistake here. Please correct that. They are 6 by 6. They're 6 by 6 miles in size, so 36 square miles in total. They're 6 by 6. I'm going to show you that in the image. Each township is giving a legal description that includes the designation of the tier in which a township is located, the designation of a range, and the name or number of the principal meridian for that area. So that's a township. I'll show you the image. It's further divided into sections because we don't live in the whole township. We live in a section of the township, or maybe in a portion of that section of the township, right? So townships can be divided into halves and quarters. Townships have 36 sections, and each section is 1 square mile or 640 acres. Section 1 is located on the upper right corner, and the numbers run from right to left and flow to the next row from left to right, then back to the left, and so on. Each section, 16, is usually set aside for school purposes, just so you know. Sections are divided into halves, so that would be 320 acres because the whole thing is 640, right? Or into quarters, and that would be 160 acres. Each part is divided into halves and quarters. The southeast quarter is 160 acres southeast quarter of a section. The southeast quarter of the southeast quarter of the southeast quarter of section 1 would be a 10-acre square. Don't quit yet, okay? It gets easier. Don't quit. I see the faces. I know. All right. So let's look. Look, it's like the meets and bounds. When I read it, you're like, what? But then I showed you, and it's easy, right? So now I'm going to show you. Survey description reading. We start at the end and read right to left to determine the location and size of a rectangular. Michelle says I'm dizzy. Or survey, government survey property. Here's an example. The northeast half of the southeast quarter of section 36. Northeast half of southeast quarter of section 36. Township 8 north, range 6 west of the 4th principal meridian. This would be the whole description. The cool thing about the exam is just you have to point out 1 or 2 things if this question pops up. The first thing we're going to do is find the 4th principal meridian on the map of the US and note its baseline. We count 6 range strips west to the 4th principal meridian and 8 townships north of its baseline to find the property township. Section 36 should be quartered, and then the quarter of the southeast quarter is then the quarter of the northeast quarter. I'll show you now. I know it gets confusing. So let's say this is the whole, we have the whole state and we're trying to find a township, right? So everything is divided into squares, as you can see, or rectangles, right? As you can see, and they are 6 on the range by 6 on the tier. So this is the township we're looking for, as an example, right? These are meridians, as I told you, and these are baselines. Okay, we're good. This township right here is then divided into, see the 6 miles by 6 miles? 36 sections. The numbers, as I was reading, they start on 1 and they go this way. Don't ask me why. That's how they determine it. It sucks, right? Well, there you go. That's the way they run. We're trying to identify section 36. It's all the way at the bottom. Okay. And what do we need? A quarter, right? So it's divided into 4. We have the northwest quarter, because this, if you do it like this is the upper half is north, right? This is north, this is south, and so everything that's on this side, right? Everything that's here is the west side of it, right? everything that's on the right side is the east side of it, correct? Okay. So if you see northeast or southeast, it's going to be on that side. If you see northwest or southwest, it's going to be on this side. Anything that's above is the north. Okay. And anything that's below is the south. Okay. So if we want to identify the northwest, well, this is north, this is the west. That means this is where the property is located. If we want to identify the southeast, this is south, this is east. So it's located in this quarter right here. And then we zoom in. Okay. Once you zoom in, you have again the triangle here. The star here. So we have again north, south, west, east. Okay. So again, anything that's on the east side is going to be from the line on, from the vertical line on. Anything on the west side is from the vertical line towards us, right?
If
Go.
instead of quarters, it said like half.
Yes, then
It
you
would
would,
only be
then it will
west
only
and
be, yeah,
east.
well, north and south or east and west.
Okay.
So this would have been the half.
Okay.
So if our property is located in this half, right, it would be, what would you call it here? It'll be the south half of the northwest quarter. Okay. Okay. Good. You're good so far? Now, there's a few things you're going to find in the state exam. You might have to try to identify the property, where it's located. So they'll give you an image and ask you, hey, where's this property located? Put a star right there. Okay. So the northeast quarter of the south east quarter in this scenario. Or they might ask you, what is the size of the lot? Okay. So if you look at it, I told you that this was 640 acres. The whole section is 640 acres. If you divide it into 4, each quarter is 160 acres. If you divide it into half, then these two would be 320 and so on. Divided into 4 again is 40 acres. Divided into 4 again would be 10 acres and so on. So whatever they tell you, if it's a half, divide by 2. If it's a quarter, divide by 4, just to figure out what the size of the lot would be. Questions? You got it now? Good. Cool. Isn't it? Come on, it is. It is easy. You just got to remember north, south, and we. North, south, and we. Once you figure that out, because look, a lot of people have difficulty with that, with lefts and rights and east and west and all that. A lot of people have difficulty. Once you narrow those two down to a T, you know exactly where they go. It's easy. Okay. If we're trying to identify here, obviously you have the image. Something in the northwest quarter will be here, northeast quarter will be here, southwest, and obviously this would be southeast. Right? Milton ran away. He's like, no, I don't want this. I'll come for the next one. Michelle, it sounds more complicated than it truly is. And I'll tell you, like everything in real estate, once you get down to it, it's a lot easier. All right, the next one. Ready? It's the lot and block method. This is the third type of legal description. lot and block method. Okay. Very simple. Very commonly used nowadays, especially here in Jersey. Block and lots. I'm going to show you also an image in a second. So this system uses a lot and block numbers from a plat map in the county records. The plat map shows property locations and boundaries for a town, section, or subdivision. The lot and block is used in subdivisions and cities. Two steps comprise a lot and block survey. First, a large land parcel, so much as you're asking, so it's a large piece of land, and is described by meets and bounds or rectangular survey. Once surveyed, this large parcel is divided. The lot is the parcel's numerical designation under the lot and block, and the block is its subdivision, so the big thing. Okay, so the lots, the slices, the block is the whole thing. A licensed surveyor or engineer prepares a subdivision plat for a lot and block, and this plat divides the land into numbered or lettered lots and blocks and shows public streets and roads. Lot sizes and street details must comply with local ordinances and requirements, and once signed and approved, it is recorded in the county where the particular land is located. It then becomes part of the legal description officially. Three identifiers go into this type of description. First, the block and lot number, then the identification of the subdivision by name or number, and the county and state name. So here's the example. Being known as lot 114, block 1191, on a certain map entitled Map of Cappy Estates, filed in the Essex County Register's Office on August 14th, 2002, as map 4193. Okay, this is a simple, probably the simplest legal description you've read, right? So far? Great. This is how it goes. In the map, it shows Astor Street, Murray Street. Over here will be Mulberry Avenue. And then we identify from all the blocks, we identify this block, block 1191, because that's what the description said. Once we got to this block, we're going to look for the lot number. 114, right? There you go. We just got to make sure we're in the right subdivision. This is map of Cappy's Estates, whoever the developer was, I guess his name is Cappy. And that's what they call it. And to help out, look what they have as well, a street number. Okay. And it's as easy as that. This is 153 Murray Street right here in Newark. That's it. The easiest description ever. Any questions on this one?
Where's another name?
Right here.
You know, where's like the rest? All of this is the block? Like the whole thing?
The whole thing. So this would be the block. Yes. This will be the block.
Okay.
This is a block in the subdivision. This would be another block. This would be another one and another one. And then it's cut into small parcels, which are called lots.
That's the one.
The 1.14 in this case. Yeah. Good. When you come to, again, in Newark, in New Jersey, when you come to developed townships where you have a lot of properties, this is most likely what you're going to see nowadays. If it's an older town and not as developed, I'm not saying that Newark's not old, it's very old actually, but in terms of development, right? An older town that hasn't developed yet, you will see the original meets and bounds description. Okay. And look what it says in the description also. This is for informational purposes only. This is part of the legal description. Premises is known and designated as 153 Murray Street, Newark, New Jersey, City of Newark, Block 1191, Lot 114. For information only. It's just to quick identification of what it is, but it does not describe the property. You know, it's located there. That's it. All right. This is the US land description map, and as you can see, there are lines over here. These are called meridians. Okay. Not every state, right? You see all of these? There's 37 of them. Not every state uses them. The shaded states use the rectangular survey system. There's 37 of them, yeah. Okay. The unshaded states, they use the meets and bounds, or again, in the more developed areas, they now use the block and line. Okay, so these dashes are the baselines. These straight lines here are meridians. Okay, just to give you an idea of what we see throughout the United States. We are in New Jersey. What do we use? The meets and bounds, or and a combination of that with the lot and block. Just for informational purposes, these are the states that use the meets and bounds: Connecticut, Delaware, Georgia, Hawaii, Kentucky, Maine, Maryland, Massachusetts, New Hampshire, New Jersey, New York, North Carolina, Pennsylvania, Rhode Island, South Carolina, Tennessee, Texas, Vermont, Virginia, and West Virginia. All the other states usually rectangular survey system.
It's a appraisal.
No, I'm just for informational purposes. All I'm trying to say is wherever you're licensed, stick to it. That's it. Because it gets complicated as you're trying to be licensed in other states. It might be totally different. It gets complicated from township to township. Imagine going to a different state. All right. The survey, measuring property rights. Actually, before I move forward, any questions, guys, at home and here? Are we good? Good? Okay. Awesome. So, legal descriptions shouldn't be changed or combined without a surveyor or title attorney's approval. A licensed surveyor can locate and determine a parcel's legal description, and the surveyor prepares a survey and sketch. The survey shows the property's legal description, obviously, and the survey sketch shows the parcel's location and dimensions. Spot surveys show building location, size, and shape. That doesn't go on the deed, the spot location, spot surveys. Now, since legal descriptions affect property ownership, only a professional surveyor should prepare them. Pay attention to this, because sometimes we decide to do everything for our clients. Copying legal descriptions puts real estate agents and their clients at risk. Do not copy, do not paste, do not try to alter anything. Let a surveyor or attorney handle that, not you. We refer to reliable documents. So we'll say, hey, we got it from here. Whatever you copied or reference, it's from here. That's all it is. Such as the deeds or full and accurate legal description. All right, now I did tell you guys that the deed only describes the rectangle, the square, the triangle, the irregular shape of your property, correct? Right. I told you that it doesn't describe what's below or what's above, right? So if you live in a condo, right, and we talked about condos yesterday, right? If we live in a condo, we're like on the 10th floor, how do we identify the unit that belongs to us? Because the deed does not describe the building. So how do we identify our unit? You see, Jose, the tricks are the same. How do we identify the unit? Did you say datum?
Yeah.
Okay. Cool. Stephen M. we have another person there, we charge extra. Like, don't forget, for kids, for dogs and adults, we charge extra. Kids, $50, dogs, I said 250, right?
Yeah,
Okay, adults is an additional $1,000. And getting him to the side or her to the side does not help you. I still charge extra. All right. Let's see what we got. Michelle says altitude. Zoraida says air lot. Milton says elevations. Jefferson says lot and block. Airspace measurement. How do you measure airspace, Evan? Like, we fog it up a little bit and then we go measure it. The floor in apartments. Okay, Amir, that's a good one. So for those of you that said altitude and elevations, there you go. We measure elevations. The answer is right on the screen. We have to measure the elevation. So we'll make a reference to the either by the meets and bounds, by the rectangular survey system, or block and lot. We'll make a reference to where it's located, and then we'll say it's at a certain height. So surface and air rights must be identified, surveyed, and described. Land includes the sky, as you know. Air can be divided just like land. The owner can subdivide airspace above the land, and air lots are airspace within the parcel's boundaries. That's what you own, an air lot. That's it. Emily says I was close. Yep. You own air when you have a condo, right? We went over this yesterday. Now, all states require a registered land surveyor to prepare a plat map that shows each unit's floor, ceiling, and vertical boundaries with reference to an official datum, which we'll talk about in a second. As an example, your unit would be, for instance, 100 feet above the datum. The unit's floor will be 100 feet, and the ceiling 110 feet. And that's how we measure. Here's our property, right? A little parcel of land right here. Okay. We identified that. And then we're going to go 100 feet. That's the floor. And the ceiling is 110 feet. That's where your airspace ends. Okay. So this is your unit. Does that make sense? So 100 feet, and then you get 10 feet of height, or 9 feet, or whatever it is, the space that you got. So
so your lot.
in this case, it's 10 feet, and obviously other dimensions will go into it, but to identify where it's located, it's in the air somewhere, right? So 100 feet and 110. Above a datum, the official datum, which is a local datum. And what is a datum? All right. For you to know what a datum is, you have to look at this image. Okay, we're going to read it in a second. But datum has to do with, all right, Zoraida, thank you. Datum has to do with altitude. Okay. And for us to identify altitude, we have to have a point of reference. Just like everything else, the same way we have a time zone, right? There's a point of reference for the time zones. We are Eastern Standard Time right now, right? So right now it's almost 7 o'clock. In reference to what? We are 5 hours behind that particular reference point, which is GMT, or Greenwich Meridian Time in London, right? So that's a point of reference, and we go backwards to get to us and keep on going backwards to get to the West Coast. Does that make sense so far? All right. For elevation, we identify a point in the water because that's the only thing that's steady. We do have high tides and low tides close to the shore, but once you go to the ocean, like further in, the water has its level. That's it. We call that the mean sea level. Okay. Now, a datum has a reference to the mean sea level. The United States Geological Survey calls that the official datum is at New York Harbor. That's where they said, hey, you know what? We've measured it. This is the point where we start. So even airplanes, for them to go in the air, when they say, oh, I'm going 20,000 feet, where do you think they are? From the water, from the ocean, okay? They could be just 1,000 feet from the highest point in the world, just 1,000 feet, but they're 20,000 feet above the ocean level, okay? Because again, you can have a house here, and then you have this house all the way up here. The ground is not leveled, the water is. Is that good? Water is level, yes.
Kind of not related, but,
Kind of not related? Okay.
that's like the nationally, we use the New York Harbor globally, like what do they use if it's like an international flight? You know, like,
The same
does
thing.
Everybody uses the New York
Yeah.
Harbor? All
So-
over the world?
So yes, the United States Geological Survey was the first one to make that reference point. Yes.
Okay.
But then, I'm glad you asked that. Do they use that all over the world? But then they create local datums. Just like we have GMT and we have EST, Eastern Standard Time, and then we have Mountain Time and we have, and so on, right? Just like we have these different time zones, there's also local datums to reference to. Look, right now it's 7 o'clock, but that's not the original time because we're 5 hours away from the original point. It's midnight at the point zero. Does that make sense? So here's the same thing. Where's the level of the ocean? Right? It's at New York Harbor, but we're not in New York. We're in Houston, Texas. All right. So we're going to find a local datum, right? A local datum that makes a reference to the original one, just like time zones. Good so far? Great. That was a good one. Thank you. All right. These are called, they're referenced by monuments, and these are called benchmarks. These local datums along the way are called benchmarks. So I already addressed these two with your question. Okay. And that is it for this chapter.